Hello guys, welcome back to my lesson. So today we're going to talk about dihybrid cross, right? So dihybrid cross, it is a cross that involves the inheritance of two characteristics, right? So remember we once talked about monohybrid cross, which involves only one characteristic. For an example, height, right? So in dihybrid cross, now we're going to talk about inheritance of two characteristics. For an example, we can talk about size of the eyes as well as height in the same statement. Remember, in monohybrid cross, we are talking about maybe someone being tall and short. That is height, right? In one statement, only one characteristic. Now in dihybrid cross, we're going to talk about the height and the size of the eyes. So someone can be tall and have big eyes. So those are two characteristics, having big eyes and being tall. That is the hybrid cross, right? So Mendel explained the results obtained from the hybrid crosses according to his law of independent assortment. So they might ask you to state the law of independent assortment. Right, you're going to write that the alleles of a gene for one characteristic segregate independently of the alleles of a gene for another characteristic. The alleles for the two genes will therefore come together randomly during gamete formation. So this is what you're going to write if they ask you to state the law of independent assortment. So for you to be able to answer questions under this topic, you need to know the following. You need to be able to find the genotype of the parents. You need to be able to find the gametes of the parents, and you need to be able to find the genotype of the offsprings or the children. But then how do you find the genotype of the parents? Let's start there. You use the statement that you'll be given. And then how do you find the gametes? You use the genotype. After finding the genotype will help you to find the gametes. Or you might be given gametes and be asked to find the genotype, and you can find genotype using gametes. And then lastly you'll have to find the genotype of the offsprings of the children. So the genotype of the offsprings can be used you can use gametes to find the genotype of the offsprings. So before you can find the genotype using the statement, you need to be able to know these things. Characteristics. What are characteristics? We talk about the size of the eyes. Big eyes, small eyes. Big eyes and small eyes, that is one characteristic. That is the size of the eyes. Long hair and short hair, that is one characteristic. We're talking about the length of the hair. Now let's talk about what we call a phenotype. A phenotype could be, if you can see that this person is tall, short, big, the phenotype of the height of that person is tall. The phenotype of the size of the eyes is small eyes. That is the phenotype, the physical appearance. Now let's talk about the alleles. Alleles are just letters, capital letters, small letters, all the letters. Those are alleles representing what? The phenotypes. So for an example, tall can be represented by the letter T, capital letter T. So if they tell you in the statement, being tall is controlled by an allele T. What is the allele for being tall? That is T. If short can be represented by a letter S, and they might ask you, they might tell you in the statement, being short is controlled by an allele S. What is the allele of being short? That is S. So we have what we call dominant alleles. These are the big letters, right? They might tell you in the statement, being tall is controlled by a dominant allele T. What is the allele for being tall? That is capital letter T, because I told you dominant alleles are capital letters, and because they specified in the statement to say dominant allele, it is controlled by dominant allele. It means that it is controlled by what? By a capital letter. So we have recessive alleles. Recessive alleles are small letters. They might tell you being short is controlled by recessive allele T. What is the allele for being short? That is small letter T, because they said it is controlled by recessive, and recessive are small letters. So let's talk about what we call a genotype. A genotype is two alleles combined together. For an example, capital letter T, capital letter T, that is one genotype in monohybrid cross. Now in dihybrid cross, you will have a genotype with 4 letters, right? So the first 2 letters will be of the first characteristic, and the second 2 letters will be of the second characteristic. So we have homozygous dominant. Homozygous means the same, dominant means capital letters. So the same capital letters, that is capital letter T, capital letter T. Homozygous recessive. Homozygous means the same, recessive small letters. It means the same small letters. Small letter T, small letter T. Heterozygous means 2 letters, the one big letter, another one small letter. So let's move on to the statement. They're saying that in pea plants, the allele for tallness is capital letter T. So obviously you know that it is dominant. And they're saying that it is dominant, and the allele for shortness is recessive. And the allele is small letter t for shortness. So far we've only spoken about one characteristic, which is height. We talked about shortness and tallness, that is one characteristic. So the allele for purple flowers is dominant P, and the allele for white flowers is recessive P, right? So this is the second characteristic, white flowers and purple flowers. Purple flowers are dominant over the white flowers. Purple, capital letter P, white flowers, small letter p. 2 plants, heterozygous, both for tallness and purple flowers, were crossed. So because they're saying heterozygous, 2 plants, 2 parents, heterozygous for both tallness and purple flowers were crossed. So what is going to be the genotype for the 2 parents? Let's look at the first parent. They're saying 2 plants, let's say 1 plant, heterozygous for both tallness. Let's start with tallness. Heterozygous for tallness, right? Heterozygous means a big letter and a small letter, right? So it's going to be capital letter T and a small letter t. And then that same plant, heterozygous for purple flowers. Purple flowers, so it means that it's going to have a capital letter P and a small letter p. So that is the second genotype. So the first genotype, capital letter T, small letter t, that is the genotype for height. Big letter P and a small letter p, that is the genotype for the second characteristic, which is the color of the flowers. So the genotype, as you can see, it's 4 letters, capital letter T, small letter t, capital letter P, small letter p. So let's move forward. So now we have the genotype of the first parent. What is the genotype of the second parent? They are saying 2 plants, right? 2 plants heterozygous for both tallness and purple flowers. So it means that the parents have the same genotype. So the second parent is also going to have a T, big letter T and a small letter t, big letter P and a small letter p. So that's going to be the genotype for the second parent. So now what do you do with the genotypes after you find them? You write them down, capital letter T, small letter t, capital letter P, small letter p. And then now you find the gametes. Remember I told you must find the genotype of the parents, gametes of the parents, and then the offsprings. Now we are at the gametes of the parents. We're going to use the genotype of the parents to find the gametes, their gametes. So let's look at the first genotype of the parent. How do we find the gamete? The first gamete. Gametes are 4 gametes. How do you find the first gamete? We take the capital letter P, combine it, first capital letter T combined with the capital letter P. And then we combine together, we get capital letter T and a big letter P. And then you take the same big letter T combined with the small letter P. And then we have capital letter T combined with the small letter p. And then we come to the second T now. We take it, we combine it with the first P. We're going to get the small t and the big P. And then for the last gamete of the first parent, we take the small t again, combine it now with the last P, that is the gamete of the first parent. Those are the gametes, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 gametes. So let's find the gametes of the second parent. We do the same thing. The big letter T combined with the capital letter P, the first P. We get capital letter T and a capital letter P. And then we're going to take the same T, combine it with the last P. We're going to get capital letter T and a small letter P. Now we're done with the first T. We've combined it with the 2 P's. Now we're combining the small t with all the P's. We first combine it with the big P. We get small t and a big P. And then let's combine it again with the small p. We're going to get small t and a small p. So those are the gametes of the second parents. You draw a table like this. Please don't look for monohybrid cross in dihybrid cross. You won't find it. At dihybrid cross, we cross differently because now you need to encompass the gametes in the whole crossing. So we have the gametes of the first parent and the gametes of the second parent, right? So now let's find the genotype of the offsprings. How do we find them? For this first box, what we do is we start with the characteristic of height. We take the big T and the big T, same letters together, big T, big T. And then second one, same letters together, big P, big P. There we have the genotype of the first child, capital letter TT, capital letter PP. And then how do we find the genotype for this one here? We combine this T here with the T here. We get capital letter T, capital letter T. And then we combine the second characteristic, big letter P and a small letter p combined together. So we have the second offspring's genotype. Look at the genotypes. We have 4 letters. This is the dihybrid cross. So let's find the genotype for this one over here. So we're going to combine the first same letters first, which is small t and a small t, and then we have them here. So we're going to combine big T and a small p, and we have a big P and a small t. Never ever put a small letter before the big letter. So if, for an example, a person is heterozygous, right, whereby they will have a big P and a small p, start with the big P. Don't start with the small p. The reason why I started with the 2 small t's here is because this is a totally different characteristic. It has nothing to do with the characteristic represented by the p's, right? So that is all about the dihybrid cross. You know how to find the genotype, you know how to find the gametes, you know how to find the genotype of the offsprings. Now let's use the gametes to find the genotype of the parents. These are their gametes here. There are 4 of them. How do you find the genotype of this parent? What you do, you look at the genotype, look at the first characteristic. The first characteristic is the T's, is represented by T's. Do we have a big T? Yes, we have it. You write it. Do we have a small t? Yes, we have it. You write it. Now you go to the second characteristic. Do we have a big P? Yes, we have it. You write it. Do we have a small p? You have it, and then you write it. Then that's the genotype of the first parent. If there was no big P, then you are going to write 2 small p's, right? So that's how you use the gametes to find the genotype of the parents. The questions are just going to be find the gametes, find the genotype of the parents, and then you check what you're given. You use what you're given to find what you're not given, and then they might ask you again to find the offsprings. The offsprings, you'll be given gametes. You use gametes to find the genotype of the offsprings. Remember, for your genotype to be correct in the dihybrid cross, you need to end up having 4 letters. If you don't have 4 letters, then your answer is wrong. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you.